Maeve had spent many winters alone, but this one felt different, heavier somehow, like the snow outside wasn't just falling but burying something inside her that she hadn't known was still alive. Living in an old timber cabin deep in the pines far from the nearest town, she had long accepted the quiet life, the lonely glow of the fire, the quiet groan of settling wood, the way the wind pressed its icy palms against the windows every December as though begging her to come outside and join the world again. But she hadn't joined anything, not since her father died and left her the cabin, not since she stopped believing that Christmas was anything more than another night the world asked too much of a tired heart. So she sat curled in her wool blanket, nose buried in a book she wasn't really reading, letting the fire crackle and dance its lonely little dance. Outside the storm thickened, snow spiraling sideways, the sky bruised and furious. She told herself no one would be foolish enough to be traveling tonight. No one would come. No one ever came. Until someone did. It was faint at first, a muffled thump like a branch hitting the door, then again louder, firmer, a sound that did not belong to wind or wood or imagination. A knock. Maeve froze, heartbeat leaping painfully in her chest. No one should have been out in this weather. No one should have even known her cabin was here. The knock came again, followed by a deep voice carried by the storm. "Please, I need help." Something primal and frightened rose in her. But so did something else, something gentler, instinctive. The part of her raised on kindness and old-world hospitality. She hesitated only a moment before pulling on her coat and easing the door open. The storm howled inside as though eager for shelter itself, flinging snow into her face. And there he stood, a man half-coated in ice, breathing hard, hair black as a raven's wing and braided against the wind. His clothes rugged and fur-lined, but his chest exposed as though he had run in desperation. Heat steaming off him into the frozen air. His eyes, sharp, wild, but pleading, met hers. "Please," he said again, "just a moment to warm myself. I mean no harm." Maeve, who hadn't let anyone in her home in years, found her hand moving on its own, pulling the door wider, guiding him in. The man stumbled through, snow trailing like a cloak behind him, and sank to the floor near the fire, holding his hands toward the flames with something between reverence and relief. Yet even as she watched him, she realized he wasn't shivering at all. For someone dressed half for a blizzard and half for a summer hunt, he seemed strangely unaffected by the cold. "What happened to you?" she asked, voice trembling only slightly. He lifted his gaze to her, steady, grateful, tired. "I was tracking something," he said after a pause. "A creature. It drove me farther than I expected. The storm rose faster than I could outrun it." His eyes flicked to the window where snow battered the glass like frantic fingers. "If not for your fire, I would have frozen." Maeve swallowed. "What kind of creature?" The man hesitated, and Maeve sensed he was weighing more than the truth. "A wolf," he said after a heartbeat too long. "A very large one." Something in his tone made her shiver. She noticed now the claw marks torn across one side of his coat, the deep bruise forming under his collarbone, the dried blood near his ribs. A man attacked by a wolf should have been trembling, weak, shaken, but he looked like a storm barely contained. He rose slowly, towering over her, though his expression softened. "My name is Kyle," he said. "I'm sorry for intruding on your night." "Maeve," she replied. This is the first Christmas I've had company in a long time." Something unreadable flickered. In Kale's eyes, something like understanding. They stood in silence, listening to the wind rage outside, the fire crackle inside. Two strangers pulled together by a storm neither had chosen. Yet Maeve felt inexplicably that this night had been waiting for him to arrive, that her loneliness had been a path, not a prison. And as the firelight played across Kale's features, she couldn't shake the feeling that the stranger she'd let into her home was far more than he appeared, far more than human, far more than fate alone could explain. He lifted his head suddenly as though listening. A low growl of wind echoed through the trees, but something else was inside it. Something Maeve had never heard before. A howl that did not belong to any ordinary wolf. Kale's expression darkened. "It followed me," he murmured. Maeve's blood ran cold. She had no idea that this night, meant to be just another lonely Christmas, was about to unravel everything she believed about safety, solitude, and the mysterious stranger now warming himself by her fire. If you're enjoying this story and want more chapters, twists in full length, cinematic tales. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next part.